I'm actually in San Francisco right now, going live from my co-founder at MeatRx's place. So we are here today. So Casey, tell us a little bit about your background. What led you into becoming a certified health nut, and how do you get certified as a certified health nut?
Well, a big part of that moniker came from when I was doing stand-up comedy on the Sunset Strip at the Comedy Store. And, I had studied natural health and nutrition and fasting when I was a model. I was a Versace model sitting in Milan. And, I used to bloat. I was allergic to gluten and dairy and, commercialized food. And I didn't know it, and it took me years to really uncover the gluten piece, but I started my journey with fasting, juice cleansing, herbs, internal purification, fruits and vegetables. How about that? Newsflash. Eating real food. That was like news to me. I grew up on Captain Crunch and Pop-Tarts. And so, and my mom was a great mother, and it was just it was the 70s, right? It was, TV dinners and, everything that everyone else got caught up with. So it took me a while to unravel that. And fasting was the first thing that really showed me the miracle of self-induced healing. And so that was 31 years ago, 32 years ago now. And since then, I've gone in all different areas of my health and spirituality. So holistic health is mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. And so after I got out of the modeling industry, I really got into meditation and started going deeper into my spiritual work. I started working with an herbal company from the Amazon. Many of you guys know that some of the strongest plants and 42% of all drugs and 25% of all cancer drugs get their impetus from rainforest plants. So I was working in the Amazon with the indigenous cultures down there, the tribes, especially the Shipibo, who are the safeguarders of ayahuasca. And, I drank that medicine with them down there. That it's legal down there, but the herbs that we were bringing up here are antifungal, antiviral, cat's claw, which is now world renowned. And so sangre de drago, highest concentrated source of antioxidants. These plants have unique medicinal qualities, terpenes, alkaloids, and nutrients that really aren't available in our modern day food supply, especially when you look at something like germanium that regulates hormone function, and it's almost non-existent in our North American soil here. And so we were dealing with plants grown in virgin soil. So it woke me up to a higher understanding, a higher frequency and vibration inside of my own body, to the degree that it woke me up, and to stop half the nonsense that I was doing. I was just lost as a human being. I didn't know where I was going. I was chasing paper like most average humans, speaking to my college counselor. Hey, where's the money at? Oh, it's in science and math. And then going down that path, and then finding, roadblocks within myself, and then going through the modeling industry, which sounded good for making money, but it was a soulless business. And so Certified Health Nut was born about 20 years into my natural medicine studies. I was working in Hollywood. I was doing a lot of commercials. I was doing a lot of stand-up comedy. And I started developing my own television show. And I was in the Amazon thinking about this, and Certified Health Nut came to me in the middle of an ayahuasca ceremony, and I laughed out loud right in the jungle. And Certified Health Nut was born. And then I came out of the jungle. This was 2006. I knew nothing about YouTube. And I had all this digital exotic footage of working with the indigenous people down there. And it was a different level, because when I first got involved with YouTube, there was strung out vegans promoting a utopian diet and trainers on steroids in their 20s and not telling you their nutrition program includes anabolic steroids. So you get what I'm saying, Shawn, yeah?
Yeah, I'm curious, I'm just, because you mentioned one of these medicinal plants or fruits, I guess, and it's the crunchberry. And so the crunchberry, what was the medicinal part of the crunchberry? Because I had that when I was a kid too, and I assume that's when you're eating Captain Crunch, the berries were providing some significant support. Was there any truth to that, perhaps?
Yeah, maybe a little bit of sugar to move the muscle twitches. But that's about it. If you have too much of it, it's going to slow everything down and clog up the system.
Yeah, no, I think that would, yeah, obviously it's a joke, but very fascinating stuff. It sounds like a very, very sort of, the ayahuasca stuff. I don't have any personal experience with it, but I've talked to a number of people now that have experimented with that, and sometimes it can be very, very mind opening, and sometimes it can go the wrong way. But you know, and I guess in the U.S. there's a few places that you can participate in that if you were so inclined. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's still kind of. Maybe there's certain.
It's legal. It's legal through the Santi Daime Church, through the was it the grand jury? What is that? They passed it through. What's the highest court? The Supreme Court.
Yeah, right.
So 2006. So it is legal in some Native American churches, but for the most part, it's legal in Brazil, in Peru, Costa Rica, and I think Mexico. And so I only take clients down to the jungle to do that type of work.
And where are you at now? Where are you currently located?
I'm in Sedona, Arizona, in Paradise.
Okay.
So
yeah.
we're doing sweat lodges, breath work, ice baths, and so this is the property that we're on. We're focusing on food security right now, food sovereignty, and so we've got greenhouses, composting. This is the pool / pond that was just built. Have you ever seen stonemasonry like this? I've never seen it.
Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah, interesting. Yeah,
we've got a sweat lodge over here, and then there's a dome for sound healing, and we're doing holotropic breath work in there. And he has real South American shamans come up here on this land sometimes too, and that's Sedona Red Rock right there. And
I was in Sedona this summer. In fact, one of the members of Meter X has a little place up there, and we were fortunate to stay up there and hike around. And I lived in Phoenix for a while, so I've been through there a few times, but I kind of spent a few days. Beautiful place, absolutely. And I know. Well, let me ask you about the sweat lodges, because I've heard about them. I think that's part of Native American culture. Or what's going on in a sweat lodge? I mean, what's different from me just going out and working out and sweating?
Well, I guess that all just comes down to intention, but I think exercise is a spiritual endeavor. I just went out for a run. That's the original breath work, right? And so the difference between sweat lodge is you're going to come in there. There's more intention involved in prayers. They bring in the 4 directions in each representation of the 4 directions. And I'm no 4 directions master, but one represents the sun and the energy of the serpent, and the energy of the east, and each one has its own attributes. And the medicine man that I work with just prays that into existence, and then we go in circles, and I do men's work, so there's no females around, so men can actually feel vulnerable and share what's on their heart. And it's truly magical, because I've done co-ed events, and it ends up being, when you mix men and women, it ends up being a lot different. And so I really like to do men's work. The shaman will talk about the direction, then we'll go around in prayers. And if there's a lot of people in there, guess what? You're going to be in that sacred sauna for a very long time. And I do want to say that I want to differentiate between what we're doing and what the Native Americans do. We're not trying to copy that. My medicine man that I worked with, he spent time with the Lakota. He's pulled skulls at Sundance, which is a big, big humbling experience. And so he prays in the 4 directions. We say prayers. We get things off of our chest. He's very intentional, and he helps the men direct them, so they don't go rambling and start crying about the way of the world and their woes. They get very intentional and directional with the vibrations that they're speaking out of their mouth. And then there is a purification process when you're in there for an hour and a half, depends on how many people are in there, depends on how hot it gets in there. And so you go through a transformation, and you come back out of the womb feeling rebirthed, if you will, or at least that's my summation in the moment.
Can you, Troy, just because I'm not familiar, when you say the 4 directions, are we talking about the geographic direction, north, south, east, and west, and there's something attributed to them, or is it some other direction we're looking at?
Yes, correct. Yes, correct.
And so north represents what? East represents what? Just
I'm not that guy. That's not my
Okay.
wheelhouse.
Okay.
And so, but I sat enough, ceremonies to know the beauty and understanding. One represents water, one represents, different animals. And again, I'm not that guy to speak that into existence. That's not my wheelhouse of study. But I have participated in it. And again, it's that rebirth coming out. Come into a sweat lodge. Look, anybody that goes into a far infrared sauna for 30 minutes and back and forth to the ice bath, that's an enlightening experience too. We don't have to couch everything in the metaphor of spiritual. Everything's spiritual. How about that? Make every step in your life and breath that you take as awakened and conscious as possible. And I've been in LA and now I'm in Sedona, and I've seen all the spiritual woo-woo and the virtue signaling on that and the spiritual bypassing. Look, the only thing that we can really do is just be present and understand that life is such a tremendous gift, and that this is the temple of God, in my humble opinion, the human being spiritual spacesuit. And when we take care of it and feed it well, it operates and performs at a higher level. And if you're looking at developing your cognitive faculties, you're developing your mind, the life that you live on this planet, and or your spiritual development, then you just always go deeper. But at the cornerstone of any martial arts program, any spiritual program, my approach is health to the physical body and dialing that in the best that you can.
Yeah, and I think that the fact that you said that you find a different vibe or different experience when you isolate men from a mixed group, interesting. And I think that's not surprising at all. I think probably men act very differently around women than when they're just by themselves. I mean, I think that's anybody knows that. I mean, that's a locker room, the locker room type of situation. And so, do you find that there is, do you have women? I mean, I guess you're a man. Do you have women only sort of things as well, or is it primarily? Do you ever do the mixed stuff?
Well, women demand it because I've been doing men's work for many years online, and I film almost all aspects of my lifestyle. And so, women have been demanding for years, hey, when's the women clan going to happen? And they send all their men, and the men bring their fathers, and the fathers bring their sons. It's really a beautiful experience. Between that and the breath work, I think it's the most important work that I do, because most people put aside all their other bullshit and they just come and do their work. It's not about dogma. It's really about practicality. Men just need to share and get stuff off their chest, however we do it, around a fire, around an ice bath, in a sweat lodge, doesn't matter. And then when I do the co-ed events, I usually do breath work. So there isn't a bunch of talking. I mean, I do lectures and all sorts of other stuff, but when we do workshops, the breath work cuts through all the nonsense that we have in our head, and people have huge transformational experiences. And so I usually do the holotropic with co-ed, but it's really magic what happens when there's no females around. Men can really be vulnerable and let their heart open. And the second you bring women around, because I've brought women into my events, my men's events, to teach sacred sexuality, and it was a shit show, man. The men were all peacocking, and the women, I mean, the girl was feeding off of that energy, and that's not what was intentional. We were bringing consciousness around sexuality and getting off pornography, and really strengthening the human constitution, if you will, with sexual awareness and our most powerful creative force that's inside of us. And so I won't be doing that again. I'll have a sexual kung fu teacher that's a male if they come and do my men's events.
That's interesting to talk about. I wanted to ask you, because I tuned into, I guess maybe it was this morning, you did a breath work session. I watched it, the first few minutes, and talk about what you're trying to achieve there. And you were sitting in that cross-legged position and, breathing through the nose, and, and it was almost, I would consider it almost like a hyperventilation type of thing. And we know that, most people are familiar with a guy named Wim Hof, who does similar breath, maybe it's not the same, but similar breath work sort of philosophy. And looking at the physiology, my assumption is you're raising the pH. You can raise your pH up a little bit in your blood. What are you doing? Why are we doing the breath work? What are we achieving with that?
Well, I'm sure you can get all the scientific dissertation from Wim, because the Stanford did the research on him. I think they injected him with botulism or E. coli or something. Not just him, but I think it was 12 of his students. And that's what my mentor, Paul Chek, talks all about. It's not what you say, it's what your student body can perform. The ideas are not enough. You got to be able, it has to live inside of a human being to have any ballast in reality. So Wim's going to have all the science on that. I didn't study with Wim. I studied with Paul Chek, and he challenged me to cold showers in 2011. I instantly got results. Wim started becoming more popular in 2014. By 2016, I was doing ice baths. But what happened in 2016, 2017, I was having lots of challenges in my relationship, bootstrapping my business, getting my business off the ground. I didn't have any business training, so I basically failed my way to success. Monetizing my videos and my passion was a bit of a challenge. And so, and I was having big challenges in my relationship. I was facing divorce. So one of my friends came in and he taught me breath work that worked for him. He was actually at one of my lectures. And I said, hey, can you teach something within 5 minutes? I'll give you the floor. And he taught me this emergency breath work, which has now become famous online. It's Bastrika. Nothing new is under the sun. The yogis figure this out. The Taoists figure this out. I just incorporated it as much as possible, applied it to myself and made it work. Wim, I think his wife died of cancer and had 4 kids, and he had all these challenges, and he started breathing too. And so Wim just gave me more permission. I never studied with him. And so, but I don't care whether you call it Kundalini or pranayama or yoga or Wim Hof, it's breath work. Let's just breathe. Let's flood the body with oxygen. And what I noticed when I did this emergency breath work, this DMT release emergency breath work, that I instantly felt better. So I like to just simplify everything. So I tell my students to do 30 breaths 3 times. Maybe you end up doing 50 or 60 breaths or whatever, but just do 3 rounds of 3. Do the holding retention, exhale retention, which I got from the Gracies, where they empty out the complete lung cavity as much as you can. Hold that for as long as you can, and then wait for the gag reflex, and then inhale and hold that for as long as you can. And it clears the anxiety. That's the bottom line, Shawn. Science, let somebody else figure that. I just feel better, and I can carry on with my day without being an emotional basket case.
Yeah, I think there's something very wise about that, because, as much as we study this and we can look at the physiologic parameters that change, we'll never know them all. And, what we think is attributed to that may not even be the answer. And so, at the end of the day, and I've always talked about this, results are what matters. And I love the fact you say, if your students don't produce results, then you're just running your mouth. You got to walk the walk, and other people have to be able to replicate what you're doing and for it to work. And so I think that's a great way to look at it. Let's talk a little about cold showers and stuff like that. I've done that. I've done ice baths. It was kind of funny, the first few ice baths. Well, every time I've done a prolonged ice bath, I come out euphoric. It's and I've done it with my kids, and we would just laugh. We just sit there and laugh. It's almost, it's euphoria inducing, but it's something that most people are not really interested in doing, because it is, it can be tough initially. How do you incorporate that, and what frequency? You talked about breath holds and, how long to do this. And can you overdo these things? I'm sure you can. And how do you figure that out?
Well, I think, look, you're a doctor. You probably studied it more than I did. What would you call it? Excitation of the nervous system, or over excitation, which can induce a cortisol response. You got to really pay attention, because this can also reduce cortisol. So, but I'm staying out on the land. Sometimes it's cold here. I don't want to jump into an ice bath right away. And that's the thing that you override to feel better anyhow. But sometimes you got to really pay attention. How am I? How much energy do I have today? Did I do an ice bath yesterday? Did I do deadlifts yesterday? Did I make, 10 or 15 business calls? Do I have 10 or 15 business calls to make today? Where's my energy at? Do I need to be more calm? Maybe I need to take a hot Epsom salt bath today. How about that? Maybe I don't need an ice bath today. However you figure it out, be very in tune with yourself and your own energy and give yourself the medicine that you need each day. Sometimes you might need to get out of your funk and override. I don't want to get in the ice bath first thing in the morning because it's cold as hell. But when you get out, you do your 1 to 3 minutes, you feel amazing and you're ready to take on the day. So, Shawn, congratulations for making my book. I mean, we don't even know each other. It's the first time I'm interfacing with you, but I saw your quote somewhere on the internet. You want research bias, you want bias, look in the scientific literature. If you want results, look in the mirror. So look in the mirror, be honest with yourself on a regular and constant basis. If you're overweight, you could probably handle a little bit of cold water more than the other person because it's going to reduce that inflammation. It's going to help boost your metabolism. It's going to help you get correct. When you're sitting in the ice bath, you might go, oh yeah, eating that box of bonbons probably isn't in my highest and best interest. And you get to meditate on that in your 1 to 3 minutes of freezing cold water. So be honest with yourself, look in the mirror, and be honest with yourself hormonally. If you don't have the energy to expend, go inside, go into the warmth. If you need a little bit of a wake-up call, jump in the cold, do some breath before to open up the capillaries, clear the mind.
I want to touch on this subject. You mentioned food security. We're in a community of people that are finding that food has a huge impact on their health, and this particular group, chooses to do, an animal-based diet. There's other options out there for sure, but certainly food makes an impact on us. And so if we don't have, I guess, access or a steady supply of food, which, whether it's plants as a medicinal product or meat as a nutritional product or however you want to mix it up, it's a problem. And so what do you mean by when you say you're trying to ensure food sustainability? You guys farming, ranching, how does that work? And what are your thoughts around that?
I mean, ultimately, I can only lead by example and teach from experience. And I'm a domesticated human. Again, Shawn, normally I'm talking to an audience that knows my work, but working in the Amazon, I saw the destruction of our ecosystem. I see that we have to create systems that are beneficial for the all. Otherwise, our demise is at hand. I'm not into global warming or climate change because I think those are politically and economically agendized elements. However, respect and reverence for the environment and living in alignment with the laws of biomimicry, regenerative agriculture, etc., especially after industrial age farming has contaminated, especially with something like glyphosate. We've got a lot of work to do. And I think it's very important as human beings, because we're always watching these podcasts and clicking on the clickbait, coffee's good for you, coffee's bad for you, blah, blah, blah. Everybody's just like all mixed up like pasta primavera. Let's get real with ourselves. There's 4 human needs: water, food, shelter, and fire. Fire is representative of technology. So whether it's the cell phone or the car that you're driving, those are our 4 needs, right? And so we need to come back to the basics. Food security, water security. Water is super important. If you don't have water, you're dead in 10 to 14 days, depending on who you are. Food, 40 to 60 days. And this is why I teach breath work. No oxygen to the brain, you're dead in 3 to 5 minutes. So know the energetic hierarchy that's required for us, and then reverse engineer and go backwards. We're all out there chasing money, working for these corporations. Some of them are antithetical to life itself. If you're looking at commercial agriculture companies like Monsanto, these things are killing the biome on the planet, our sustenance. So it's a good idea to start wrapping your head around money and what we're doing, because the fiat currencies, I've studied geopolitics coming out of the Amazon. I understood the way of the world, the oil situation. I'm a big picture guy. And my mentor in the Amazon said, nothing's more frightfully than being completely healed, because then you have to take responsibility for the world around you. And so right now I'm very focused on food security, because I understand that the politics in California can affect the trucking, the shipping, the growth, the fires, all the stuff that's happening in California, which is like the 7th largest economy in the world. It's part of our American breadbasket. Fruits and vegetables are grown there, livestock, etc. If the shipping shuts down or the trucks stop, there's no food in Sedona. We've got a Jeff Bezos Whole Foods over here. We do have local smaller businesses that I support. that support local farmers, but really focusing on your food, and realize that when you drop a seed in the ground, food is free. Somebody has to tend the land. And now that we have the economic system up, we pay for someone to tend the land and high vibrational food. So if that's the case, most of us are working just to feed ourselves. So I think it's a good idea to wrap your mind around even basic gardening, to know where your food comes from. We're just taking it up to a next level. And Shawn, I'm here to tell you, it's not that I'm a hypocrite. I'm a city dweller. I'm a domesticated human being as well. It's my choice to get back to the land and start refreshing my mind around dirt, compost, soil mechanics, soil health, humic and fulvic acids, being around more knowledgeable people than I. And then, of course, I've already created a platform. And so I just put people on my platform. I'm talking to Joel Salatin. We are having a permaculture conference here in Sedona in May. We're looking at bringing Joel Salatin on. He was in Food Inc. Obviously, he owns Polyface Farms out in the Shenandoah Valley. But I think food sovereignty, food security, and wrapping our heads around what matters most as human beings, because if the economy shits the bed, or a civil war or some kind of weirdness happens because of all the energy that's on the planet right now, we want to make sure that we tend our garden. The Hopi prophecy says, know your water, know your garden, know the people around you. So that's where my head is at right now. And again, Shawn, I failed my way to success. So I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just following my gut instincts now that I've cleaned my gut up and I actually have them.
Yeah, well, I think no one that's successful hasn't failed. I mean, I think that's, if you haven't failed, you haven't tried. And I think that's an important part of that. I mean, as much as I sort of say I've been able to do things, I've had plenty of failures myself, whether it's in all kinds of aspects. But let me ask you about, you mentioned sex. And when I was a young medical student, I remember walking around with one of our, mentors talking about, we can tell when people are healthy because their desire for sex, their ability for sex improves. It is a vital part of our healthy existence. And so you'd mentioned that you do some sort of, I'm not sure what was going on there, but you mentioned that there was a sexual kung fu guy that's going to come in there and talk about that. Talk about that a little bit, if you don't mind.
Well, sex is the most powerful force the human being possesses. It's the power of creation. We can create life. And so, take that into a deeper spiritual concept, really sit with that. That is our most powerful force. So what are we doing with it? And of course, pornography has really crept into our society, and it's a big part of the manipulation tactics. In my humble opinion, I just see, I've studied advertising and marketing, and they play us at our hormones, fear and sex. And so to understand ourselves better, it's a good idea to look into Mantak Chia's teachings, sexual kung fu, Taoist, white tigress teachings. These things are ancient. Tantra, the yogis figured this out. And this is not all about intercourse and ejaculation. This is really about harnessing the energy. There are certain exercises that you can do with your ligaments that go from your tongue down into your genitals. There's massage techniques that you can work with the vagus nerve and activate higher states of awareness and Zen, and then be more available and in tune. So when you have the sexuality or the intercourse with your partner, you can also dream into existence and use sex magic for that which you wish to desire. And I truly believe that this should be put on a giant platform instead of the hidden agenda that we have on our pornography. It's unspoken with. So if we could just take that pornography energy and then commercialize sexual kung fu and our own creativity, we can create magic in this world. It took me a while to study it, and it took me a while to integrate it, and I'm still practicing. Sexual kung fu or a martial arts practice is still, it's practice. It's not perfection. You're evolving. And sexual kung fu, that analogy has been used because you take the meditation energy of the microcosmic orbit, and you take the energy, the sexual energy from your spine. You pump the perineum, the kegel, and it can actually put the fluid. We have dimethyltryptamine in our body. We can pump that Kundalini energy, the fluid, up through the spine into the third eye, so we have clear vision, and then we drop that energy through the organs. So this energy already exists, and you're just meditating on it. Then when you're with a partner and you're going through intercourse, you can lock the tongues, you can and then circulate the energy, up your spine, down through your organs, then up her spine, down through her organs, into a figure 8. And I am here to tell you that it is a psychedelic experience when you're practicing the sexual kung fu, the tantra, at a very high level. And again, it's a practice. It's not like I've perfected anything. And finding a willing partner that's not stressed out, that can open, because remember, part of the feminine is to feel safe enough to where they can open up. And if you look at stress factors on the planet, electromagnetic radiation and chemical stress and thermal stress and all these other elements of stress, digital communications, it's challenging for women to really open up to their partner. We don't really know who we are as human beings. We're kind of fumbling our way, and we've been commercialized and thinking we're just automatons to fit into, the modern world. But actually, we're spiritual beings on a divine path here. And so the sex can help guide us into that next level of our divinity, of our spirituality. It's a tool. And I'm here to say it's an extremely powerful tool. And I've only started my journey. I'm only 15 years into it. I can't say I've sit here and mastered it, but some of the practices that I do, and they help prepare me for the actual intercourse with that sacred partner, to take my ideas and the love up into a higher dimension. And I have seen lights and hallucinations and had multi-orgasmic experiences without ejaculation. And I'm here to say, getting off porn and studying sexual kung fu is one of the most powerful things I have done in my life.
That's fascinating. I wanted you mentioned fear, and I'm here in San Francisco. I walked around this morning. Everybody's got they've got their headphones in, they've got their masks on, they walk around with their head down. I walked through the streets this morning, smiling, saying hi to people, and no one would even look at me. I mean, it was just like everybody's terrified. How do we deal with it? I mean, what can you do? I mean, you're out in the sunshine. What are your thoughts on what's going on today with all the sort of the fear that people have?
Yeah, get out to nature. Nature heals everything. And the addendum to that is death is a part of life. Most people are afraid of death. Therefore, they are afraid of life. And so come to terms with your death. Face your imminent death. Understand immortality. Study the Zen masters. Face your death and then live a life worth living. Right? Really get out there and face that. And if you're not tapped into any of this stuff and you're listening to this, or you have clients, tell them to get out into nature, because that's going to solve all the problems and subjugate the programming. Take your shoes off, jump in a body of wild water, breathe in that oxygen. You live in San Francisco. I recommend anybody in the Bay Area, if you've never been to Muir Woods, get your ass out there today, and your life will change. Do the Dipsy Trail or the Ben Jonson Trail and go out to Stinson, jump in the ocean out there, and then come back through Muir Woods and just thank God that you're alive. Thank yourself that you're alive. If you don't believe in God, or you're an atheist or whatever, it doesn't matter. But have that spiritual experience. And here's a newsflash: if you're not in San Francisco, go 50 miles outside of any city center, and there's nothing but magic in nature. So go find that sacred spot and go in there, and you will feel better. And from there, build your life around always upgrading to feel better, look better, and keep going, inching towards that which the heart, if your heart desires feeling better, looking better, feeling grateful, having love in your heart for yourself and for others, feeling connection to other people, get out into nature. It's going to give you that in spades. And then, look, we've got a lot of work to do, Shawn. There is a huge breakthrough. I've seen a vision. Peace on earth is coming. We are not there yet. There is some work to do, but have that awareness. And one of the best things that you can do is get out into nature. If nature's not doing for it, if nature's not doing it for you, I don't care if there's ice on the ground, break through the ice and get into the ice water, because it will wake you up to your own divinity, to your own power. The human being is resilient and powerful. Go try and kill yourself by jumping in an ice bath. I'm here to tell you, it won't kill you. It's going to awaken you up to much more higher than you were before. Your trillions of cells, the mitochondria is just going to be lit up. And then you're going to have something to offer to the world. Remember, we want so much in the world. It's all give and take. And if you give your love in the world, it will come back in spades. And that's truly what we all want, is peace and love at the heart level. And so if that's the case, start using your linguistic patterns and alchemy to call that forth. Sound effects matter. And so alchemy, speak into existence that which you wish to see. Abracadabra, your word is your wand. It is magic, guys. People are looking for science and all that stuff. But let me tell you, Shawn said it perfect. There's plenty of research bias. You can say anything with statistics. You want that? You want those results? Look in the mirror. And if that's the case, and creation principle works by alchemy, speaking into existence that which you wish to see, no different from the Wright brothers wanting to fly like an eagle and Steve Jobs trying to put these handheld computers in our hands. If that's the case, then we can speak into existence everything that we want. I've studied enough spirituality to know that we all want peace in the heart. And if that's the case, simply just start calling that forward on any single level that you can, reminding yourself of that. And that's what we're going to create on this planet.
Well, I will say amen and a woman to that. Hey, let me ask you, because and I think it's a very good point, realize your mortality. We are all getting out of this place the same way. We're all going out dead. And if you come to terms with that, then you realize you live your life to full. Now, you recently are just over 50, I believe, and like me in their 50s. There is most people sort of accept this, I would say, a meager existence, a much diminished existence based upon their age. What are your thoughts on, can I be 50 and still be vigorous and vital and thrive and love life?
I think we can only lead by example, Shawn. And I am here to tell you that I got my body in great shape at 50. I'm 55 this year. I've lifted weights 4 times in the last year since lockdown. And so you fine tune your nutrition, manage your stress levels, and recognize what they are. And that's what I put in my book. And fine tune your nutrition and your sleep hygiene, and you'll get more miles rather than trying to outrun your bad diet in the gym. I can only lead by example. Yes, I have good genetics. I bloated and had gut issues for 30 years of my adult life. I had constipation. It took me years to get my gut online. I'm here to tell you, it's a beautiful thing going into my 60s to be at the peak performance where I'm at. I don't overtrain. I'm not trying to do Spartan races and compete with my brothers about what mountain I can climb or this, that, or the other thing. I'm just trying to live as resilient and strong as possible. And I'm here to tell you it's all possible without being a gym rat. It's completely possible.
Yeah, I certainly don't disagree with that. And, I just turned 54 a couple of days ago, so I'm just right kind of with you there. When you said, let's talk a little bit about nutrition, because, obviously, we, like I mentioned, this is a group that follows a meat-based diet, and you had gut issues. So what did you figure out? Where does your nutrition look like these days?
Nutrition, I'm pretty much an omnivore, which is grass-fed meats, pasture-raised animals, eggs, etc. I eat some dairy, especially if it's raw, super high quality. Farmer direct, sheep, goat, cow. I do some cow too. But again, I want to send that addendum now to everybody. I probably was off dairy for 5, 6, 7 years at a time, like completely off all dairy. I've been off gluten for about 9 years. I avoid gluten like the plague. I get a food hangover. I'm clear on that. I eat that. I feel like shit for like 6 or 7 days afterwards. So I started out not knowing anything, living in Milan as a Versace model, went down to the American bookstore, got some books. I got Jethro Kloss's Back to Eden, the family heirloom, which I think is great for herbal information and natural medicine. Remember, 100 years ago, 150 years ago, no pharmacy, no doctor, no hospital, no store. So what do we use? Baking soda, hydrogen peroxide, apple cider vinegar. What are some of the other home remedies? These were just basics that we use. We use enemas. We use the available herbs that were around us. That was our medicine. And so, rephrase the question again, Sean. I got off on a tangent.
Well, I was just, just asking about your overall nutritional strategy. You mentioned omnivore, which is totally fine. I think there's many people that thrive on that. I think you have to figure out where you need to be, and then you can find out. There is our food system these days, and you mentioned that with the industrialized food system, and it's not just the way we farm, but it's the way how we process the foods and put them on the shelves, and they can sit on the shelves for 10 years and they become very profitable. And, it's good to get people calories, but also it doesn't really do much for health long term. So I assume you avoid most of the sort of highly processed stuff, I would imagine.
The number one thing I teach my students is eat clean, and how I live my life is eat clean, eat whatever the hell you want, as long as it's real food. Look, I've got a lot of contention with the vegans over the years because they preach this utopian diet. I got severely anemic, and that my point I was making with the other story is I went down to the bookstore. The other book was Fit for Life. That's Marilyn and Harvey Diamond 40 years ago. It was a vegan, diatribe, and it sounded great. The literature sounded great. Started eating fruits and vegetables, started pooping out a lot. I was like, yeah, I definitely felt better. But long-term, hormonally, it wasn't sustainable. It took me years, took me a couple of years to figure that out. I finally caught up with Marilyn Diamond. She's in her 70s now. She's on Facebook, or she was a few years ago. She almost died. She ruined her hormones on that diet. And so another friend of mine, Mariel Hemingway, she got into yoga quite a bit and got into the vegan, dogma and the paradigm, and lost her butt and hormones and everything. My friend is a rock climber, Bobby Williams. He's a bit of an animal. He taught me how to eat organ meats and bison testicles, and he's an animal. And so he started dating her, and really got her extremely healthy and just eating, really, nutritious, raw-based ancestral diets, and she got better. So. And look, I know plenty of people clean out with the vegan diet, and I know, plenty of people with, like Jordan Peterson, who's got autoimmune. He can heal himself with the carnivore diet. So yeah, I do believe it's important to be cognizant to our food. But this is what I tell my clients: eat whatever the hell you want, as long as it's real food. Eat when you're hungry. It's as simple as that. And we've got programmed by the 3 meals a day. I think the grain companies, Kellogg's and General Mills, had a lot to do with that research bias as well. I fast all day until I'm starving, and I feed my body. And that's me as an individual. I don't teach anybody else to do that. I do talk about intermittent fasting, but I think we all have to find our own way. And then I have some extreme athletes that are on vegan diets. And I say that if you've got that much output in your body, that you basically can probably inhale and survive off of anything, including cardboard. And if you look at some of the vegan diets, you might think it is cardboard. And so eat whatever you want, as long as it's real food, and eat when you're hungry. And your exercise should dictate your caloric intake. It should be as simple as that. But I know that we created so much complexity in the world, and people are all doped up on counting calories. I made a great video on YouTube about counting calories if anybody's interested in that.
I don't have time for that, or the desire to sit there and work. Like I said, if I need an app to tell me how to live my life, it's kind of crazy. Well, what do you? I mean, just maybe 3 or 5 principles to sort of guide like a daily. What things you do every day? What would you say, like things you want to make sure eat right, get good sleep? I mean, how would you say what's important for the day?
As a father who started, in his 40s. Don't mess around with your sleep. Lots of research on that. 10 p.m. Sleep with the sun, ultimately. 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. is a good marker. Average is 8 hours. I'm a 9-hour guy. So I like a nap, and bare minimum of 8 hours. Some people are 7 hours, but there's a lot of research on circadian rhythms and circadian health. So I recommend highly paying attention to that. That's what I do. The other thing is, Shawn, at our age, it's like you can train hard, you can have a hard day, you can have an emotionally hard day, but if you get a damn good night's sleep, man, and you wake up next morning, you flush the body with water, have a hot shower, cold bath, maybe a run, man, yesterday doesn't exist, right? So don't mess around with your sleep. Get the cleanest water that you possibly can. Hydrate yourself with good, clean water. When it comes to movement, I specialize in Qigong and really gentle movements because I had autoimmune and I healed myself with that. Walking's the best exercise. Move your body every single day. Don't make exercise a thing. We could start doing some Qigong right here, right? You could just start moving the body, the hips, the groin. As we get older, that always needs energy. A little rock back and forth, a little crossing the midline, harmonize the two brain hemispheres. So just keep moving, guys. That's my theory. Just keep moving, right? Don't make exercise a thing. Go for a walk. That's part of your training. Just keep moving. And then, breath work is great. Meditation is great. I don't try and push that on the modern person because we're also friggin' busy. Definitely regulate and modulate your digital usage, because I've coined, I have 7 factors of stress, and I coined the term digital stress. I did a lot of research because I had brain fog, I had black mold exposure, I was losing my cookies trying to build my business, brand new father, 2 children, had a house with mold in it, and I didn't know. But I couldn't get my mind, to work properly. And I was reading Psychology Today, and they said that interfacing, it takes the human brain 20 minutes to focus on anything. And so I was getting interrupted by the kids. I was you go from email to YouTube. I'm running a social media platform. And so the interface from one to the next, it's a cortisol release. Thinking is catabolic. It will literally break you down if you overthink. And so really managing your cell phone usage and being cognizant of your technology usage, turning off your Wi-Fi. Electromagnetic radiation is a stress as well. And so, again, I define all these 7 factors of stress and really knowing, what they are. Chemical stress and electromagnetic pollution is all around us. It's invisible. So you got 2 strikes against you just waking up. So you got to manage and mitigate that as best as possible. So stress management, I do recommend meditation. I do recommend Qigong, but it's got to come intuitively and inspired to another person. Otherwise, I think the greatest Qigong is walking. That's the way the body is designed to move through time and space. You chuck off your feet and you're barefoot, you're in the sun. That's going to cover the nature principle, and your health is going to go through the roof just from that one little exercise, especially if you're consistent 5 days a week minimum. I've got a bazillion practices that I do that I don't even consider them practices. But I wake up every morning, I fast most of the day, I hydrate, I take herbs in the morning, herbs and superfoods. I've been juicing for 32 years. So I do like pre-digested, bioavailable, nutrient-dense, vitamin and mineral-rich waters, basically. I've noticed that they flood my tissues and they help me replicate my eyeballs and my spinal cord. So I juice or do superfood powders. I've been in that industry for 15 years. I only work with the highest and best. That's my nutrient content. And then I usually move my body once a day, jump in the ocean. I try and meditate in the morning and journal, but I'm not religious about that. I try and make my life my meditation, my spirituality. At this stage of my development, that doesn't mean you guys at home shouldn't have a habit. And then again, Shawn, I don't think my lifestyle is a habit. I just do the things that I know that makes me feel better, helps me be more presentable to my ex-wife, to my constituents, to my students, and to be, the best balanced person that I can be. I do the things that are going to help enhance that. And sometimes that's sleep, and sometimes that's some nutrients, and sometimes that's an ice bath.
Troy, this has been truly, truly fascinating. I have to do another meeting, but can you, and I'd love to talk to you again, maybe down the road again, get some more of your infectious energy. It's great. Where can people go to find you? How do they get hold of your book, so on and so forth?
Yeah, the book can be found, everywhere. TroyCasey.com is the best place to get a hold of me. I'm being censored online. I've been talking about health freedom, medical freedom, Monsanto, chemicals in the food, vaccines. I work with Robert Kennedy Jr. I help finance his recent film, 1986 Act. And so I'm easy to find, but I'm being censored. So TroyCasey.com. I'll give you a free Qigong video if you sign in to my email list. I'm on Instagram now and YouTube, and things are going okay, even though I'm being censored on Instagram. YouTube's still popping, and TroyCasey.com. But Instagram, I'm most live. And then come to Sedona. Come out here for some healing. Come to the Man Clan tomorrow. Do men's work and holotropic breathing next Wednesday. And so come to Sedona for healing. I'm here, and I'm easy to find.
Sounds great. Troy, thank you so much. Everybody, thanks for attending. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care now. Bye-bye.
God bless. Thank you so much.